In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny-suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
Hello. This week we are sitting right in front of the fire, as you can see.
Fire.
And maybe in the background you can also see Bob and Rue Pumpkin, which we carved the other night. Well, me and Jen carved the other night. Hi Jen. Because it's the day before Halloween right now.
Jesus, is it actually really?
Yeah, it's Halloween tomorrow.
Okay.
So happy Halloween. Oh no, because it's already been and gone by the time.
Yeah, it's too late.
It's too late. Okay, so what have we been up to this past week, Joe?
I feel like I've spent a lot of it driving up and down motorways.
Really? Has it sucked? We're both really grumpy right now, aren't we?
Really grumpy. Vicky walked into the house and then threw a punnet of blueberries across the kitchen floor.
That's not entirely accurate.
It's not.
The punnet of blueberries flung themselves to the floor, scattered themselves everywhere, and then they swore really badly like a bloody sailor, didn't they?
There was swearing. There definitely was swearing. Lots of swearing.
Motherfucker! Basically is how that went. Yeah, so this is going to be a particularly cheery podcast, isn't it?
Cheery podcast.
Cheery podcast.
We're both very sober.
Yeah, water. Cheers. Oh no, it's bad luck to cheers with water.
Vimto.
No, Vimto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I gave up on that sugar-free shit because there was no point.
Fair enough. So this weekend we're actually really tired because we've been really busy, haven't we?
Busy weekend.
Because what happened on Friday and Saturday?
We did Cider Fest.
We did Cider Fest 2017.
You did Cider Fest. I just kind of faffed about a bit.
No. Oh, I've got such good feedback from it, and everybody had such a great time, and
that's pretty cool.
yeah. And actually, what Kyle said to me was that you are lovely, which is obvious. And actually, no, he didn't say lovely. That's not a word that a man tends to use. But he said that you were a very, I can't remember, but it was really good. You are
Cool story, bro.
Thanks. You're a calming influence. Everybody loves you on the podcast anyway. I'm just like,
I'm not sure about this whole video thing. I think I might be. I think my whole, it might all just be being destroyed by actually having videos.
do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, what do you think, dear listener? Do you think that the videos are destroying Joe's whatever he thinks he's got?
I think I'm better looking in people's imagination.
Oh, that's not true. No, I think you're really good looking.
Oh.
Anyway, that's what we've been doing this weekend, and we put everybody in hot seats on day 2, which means that we asked them very pointy questions and we made them kind of set goals, and then we were like, well, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Are you sure that's the right thing to do? How are you going to do that? And other things too. There were other questions too.
Well, yeah,
and also suggestions and discussions. And one of the things that came up a few times was positioning and the importance of kind of positioning yourself and charging more money if you want to, which nobody's charging enough money. And so that got me thinking of, well, examples of positioning, really. And so that's why this podcast is called How to Be the Steve McQueen of Your Industry, because Steve McQueen
is dead.
He is dead, yes.
Okay.
But he was so cool, wasn't he?
I was wondering whether you were going to go into the whole fashion Steve McQueen thing, and I was just going to be confused.
What? Fashion? Do you mean Alexander McQueen?
Yeah, that one.
You're such a fashionista.
Yeah.
So yeah, Steve McQueen. So basically, I wanted to really spend this podcast talking about living life by your own rules, regardless of the circumstances, which is pretty much what Steve McQueen did, basically. Because it's really funny, because when you look at him, I mean, he's not that pretty. When you watch his films,
He was quite pretty.
Well, I think he was quite good looking, but he was around the same time as James Dean, and James Dean was like, poster boy pretty. And, you know, George Clooney kind of looks, and Robert Redford. He's not really in the same looks league as them. I think Steve McQueen was pretty hot. But that's because of his charisma, I think, rather than his looks. And he wasn't really that great an actor either. Well, I know. But there were better actors out there. But he had something. He had a something. And Sean Ryder from the Happy Mondays calls it a fuck-offness, which is probably fairly accurate. I think more politely we would call it charisma, I guess. But like back in the time when, you know, you might have thought it was only like the highest paid film stars who got to live life by their own rules and all the rest of it, or like royalty or something. Steve McQueen just did that for his whole life. Did you know that he was repeatedly abandoned as a child?
Repeatedly abandoned?
Repeatedly abandoned.
That's careless.
I know. Well, his dad basically left the family immediately.
Right.
And then his mom abandoned him repeatedly. So, you know, just abandoned him with people, then came back, and then abandoned him again, and then came back. So he didn't have.
That sounds like it sucks.
Yeah, so he didn't have a great start in life. And he went to prison, and he was in the Marines, and then he got to Hollywood. And there's a couple. I've just ordered one of his biographies actually. It's on its way, because Ben Settle talks about Steve McQueen quite a lot in his emails, and that's where I got some of this information from. And then I've been doing a bit of digging today and finding out. But basically, Steve McQueen had this like certain something, and it was just authentic. He was just him, and it's been said that like he didn't really play his characters. He just played Steve McQueen and like made every part his own. So. Yeah, and he was basically he was just really charismatic and really authentic.
He was, and you know, jumped triumphs over barbed wire and stuff.
That wasn't him in the film.
Was it not?
No, because the studios wouldn't let like their leading man do that kind of thing. But apparently, after the filming was finished, he went and did the jump anyway because he was just like, I totally can do this, and so apparently that's what he did, which I think is brilliant. But yeah, he would have done more of his own stunts, I think, but they wouldn't let him. But he had his favourite stuntman, because on the set of, what was the TV show he was part of? His kind of flagship TV show. Oh no, what was it?
I have no idea.
Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, the TV show that was his flagship TV show, which has completely left my brain, which is really, really irritating. He basically fired the first two stuntmen that they brought in, even though I don't think he really had the authority to fire the stuntman because he was an actor. And then this other guy came in and was just, I don't know, they kind of ended up becoming mates, I guess. But he would only ever listen to this stuntman because he would sort of be like, I really want to do this stunt. Is it too dangerous? And if this guy said, yeah, it's too dangerous, then he wouldn't do it. And that was kind of his, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a little bit of background for Steve McQueen. But he was basically a stickler for detail as well. So which is another way of saying he was a fussy fucker.
Mm-hmm.
So for one scene in a film, apparently he tried on like 4 expensive wristwatches and hated every one of them, so he insisted on wearing his own. And he got paid $750,000 to star in this film. And then
that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Back then, yeah.
Jeez.
You think this is like in the 60s or 70s. And the next day after filming this scene, he had his agent give the executive producer a bill for $250 for rental of a wristwatch.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. He was pretty obnoxious as well, I think, in real life. He's a proper womanizer. He was married 3 times and just like basically slept with every single one of his leading ladies apart from Faye Dunaway.
And what was special about Faye Dunaway?
I don't know, I just don't think she fancied it. But yeah, and he was like a proper male chauvinist pig and all the rest of it. But he was just so cool, and so it's just like he's just got like the Steve McQueen-ness.
Shouldn't we be decrying that kind of thing in this day and age?
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. He got away with it because
cool.
Yeah, because he was cool, and you know people do. And so, yeah, there was another instance when he asked for the brim on his fireman's helmet to be cut back because he didn't want his eyes to be in his shadow. And the wardrobe department were like, well, if we change yours, we'll have to change everyone's. And he was like, well, then change them all. And so they did. And so, basically, how did he get to be famous enough to behave this way on set and get away with it? Because you don't just, like, walk in.
He came up with the goods, didn't he?
He did come up with the goods, yeah.
He did the good stuff. He came across well. People wanted to see him. He had a product.
He did. He was his
His
product.
product was good.
He did. Actually, I can tell you exactly how he came to do it, and it's really, really interesting. Apart from like all the hard work and positioning, because he was a hard worker, and his films were really, really good. But he made sure that he was seen. So in every single scene that he was in, he would do something to draw attention to himself. Yeah, he kind of did that. So he would make sure that he was prominent. So in The Magnificent Seven, like he only had like a few lines in the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really small part. If you watch the film The Magnificent Seven, it's hardly any him, and it's all like Robert Vaughn.
Right.
And Robert Vaughn refused to ever work with him again. Because he stole all of the scenes from the more famous actors, so he might kind of like knock his hat or, shake his gun or, just kind of...
He's always busy doing something.
Yeah, he would do something so that your eye would go to him.
Okay.
While somebody else was talking, and you can imagine that would drive you nuts, wouldn't it?
Piss off the big stars.
It really would. But people noticed him during that film, and then they carried on noticing him. Because, I mean, who do you think of when you think of the film The Magnificent Seven?
Yul Brynner. No, it wasn't Yul Brynner. Who's the bald one? Telly Savalas.
Oh, but you also think of, like, Steve McQueen, right?
Yes, I did. I was just...
You've just ruined my entire point.
Ruined the whole point.
Anyway.
Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen.
Cut that bit out.
Steve McQueen was pretty cool. But then that reminded me of, do you remember the podcast the Cracked podcast we listened to about kind of famous, like, awful things that happen behind the scenes of movies?
Yes.
And that made me think of all of those people that they kind of mentioned. Often was all about their positioning and the way they were like, you know what, this is the way I am doing things, and everybody else will fall into line or it doesn't happen. And Marlon Brando is a really good example because...
Douche canoe.
Yeah, proper pain in the arse. Because can you remember what he used to do?
So he never learned any of his lines ever?
Yeah, ever.
So his co-stars would have to like walk into scene with post-it notes on them, and he'd have bits of paper on his desk with his lines on, and whatever he was in, there'd be lines somewhere just out of shot.
Okay, so this is really funny. In The Godfather, quite often when he's like looking up and being all like, dreamy or whatever it is he's doing, is actually reading lines that they've got put up on the trees above him. And this is probably my favourite. Okay, so for Superman, he was paid $3.7 million, which is I know
it's a massive waste of money.
Which was $15 million today, like the equivalent inflation adjusted it, which was 11.75% of the gross profits of the film for 13 days' work on Superman. But if you watch the film Superman, when he's kind of giving that speech when he's holding, like, the baby Superman.
Right.
You know the one, the scene. He's doing the whole thing looking at the baby because he's basically reading his lines off the baby.
So they've magic marked the lines onto the baby. They've magic marked
the baby. And then they paid him $3.7 million to do that. And it's like, how? It's like, what? What? And it's like, it's all just positioning. Positioning.
It's a good trick.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can do that, then that's amazing.
But if you weren't Marlon Brando, they wanted Marlon Brando for that film. If you're not Marlon Brando, you don't get away with that. But that's not the only thing he did. What else did he do? No trousers. Do you remember the no trousers thing?
Yes.
And I can't quite remember why, but during filming of The Godfather, he refused to wear trousers.
Quite often, no trousers.
Yeah. Because was it that he didn't want? I think it was he was getting really fat or something, and he didn't want them to film him full length. Was that it?
Yeah. So
And
they,
so
they
he
made
was-
sure they always kept the cameras above his waist by not wearing any trousers.
Yeah, that was his thing. He was like, I don't want you to film me. And they're like, well, we're going to film you because you're an actor in the film and that's your job. And he was just like, well, I'm just not going to wear any trousers then. Like, just no trousers. And then he was mooning all the other actors. It turned out he was a
Anyway,
bad man.
this isn't business yet. What are we talking about?
Talking about business. Positioning. How you can do it.
So
James Cameron.
How can you do it?
You become James Cameron. Everyone hated him. No, don't become James Cameron. He was a real bully, but his films are brilliant, so people put up with it. He nearly drowned Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio
In the Abyss.
in The Abyss. And then Ed Harris, when he came out of his like diving filming scenes, punched James Cameron in the face.
That's reasonable.
And Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio was just like, fuck you, I'm not doing this anymore, because he'd made her do the same scene like 20 times in freezing cold water. But his films are brilliant.
To be fair, if you sign up for a film called The Abyss, where it's entirely filmed underwater,
well, yeah, but
you're going to spend a lot of time underwater. That's kind of what's going to happen, surely.
You are, but... Oh, and his own brother, I only found this out today, he put his own brother was playing a corpse, and he had to float around underwater with a live crab in his mouth.
Nice. That's commitment.
That is commitment.
Do you want to be in my film? Yeah, all right, what we've got to do. Float around in ice cold water with a crab in your mouth.
So
like dead
awesome.
person. Cool.
In his defence, though, in James Cameron's defence, he spent a lot of his time directing underwater as well. Like, he was in like a little pod and a little... So he didn't...
Was he cold and drowning too?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think he was quite as drowning as Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio, but, you know.
Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio? That's a name.
It is a name. That would be her, like, equity name, because you're not allowed to have the same name as anyone else, are you? If you're in the Actors Guild, if you're in equity. Anyway, but all of this arrogance comes from results as well. So Steve McQueen had it right from the start, and he was like, this is who I am, and this is the life that I'm going to live, and these are the rules I'm going to live by. And then he made his success happen by all of that stuff that we talked about, with like the, you know, edging into...
By having good product and knowing what he was doing and being good at it.
Yeah, and kind of marketing himself and pushing himself forward. And James Cameron kind of did a similar thing. It's like, these are my rules, but all of these people, they got really good results. And that's the thing. You can't just, you can't just rock up.
You can't just be a twat.
Yeah, you can't just be a twat. It's like Marlon Brando, when he started behaving really badly, had already established himself as Marlon Brando. And so that's kind of important. But, if you're amazing at what you do, people will generally put up with more shit from you. But anyway, having said that, though, you can make your own rules and you can enforce them. And, it doesn't have to be stuff like, I'm not going to wear any trousers today because I don't feel like it.
Although that is a good rule.
Well, it kind of depends. Or you can be like Whiskey, who is like, my rules are that
I will be on the wrong side of the door.
I will be on the wrong side of the door, and I will shriek at people until they open the door, which is what she's doing right now.
Hi, Whiskey.
But yeah, you can make your rules, and that was one of the things we talked about at Cider Fest, wasn't it?
Yes.
So I can't remember who...
taking Fridays off, not answering the phone, training your customers.
Louise. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Louise.
Louise now has Fridays off. She does not work on Fridays.
Skills.
Which is awesome, and, nobody expects her to be working on Fridays. Nobody, even my mum and dad, don't phone me in the daytime. They phone me at lunchtime or they phone me in the evening because they know that I simply will not answer my phone. Because, why would I do that? But who was it who said that they kept getting interrupted by random phone... Well, don't need to name them anyway. But somebody at Cider Fest had said, problem being interrupted by random phone calls. So don't answer your phone.
Yeah.
Don't answer your Facebook message. If some of the business you do is via Facebook message, and that's fine, if that's a way that you communicate with people, that's fine. But if you read your clients' Facebook messages, and you can tell when they've been read at like 9 p.m, then that sends a signal to your client that you are going to read their messages at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So, and nobody wants to do that. Well, I wouldn't think many people would want to do that.
I can't imagine it's a life goal for many people.
No.
I would like to be up all night reading Facebook messages from my clients and being pestered and answering the phone when I'm supposed to be doing something more productive instead.
Exactly, and that's a very good point. If you're always constantly answering people's like random brain fart phone calls, you're not then putting the work into working on whatever project you're doing for them. So if people object to you not being available just like that, then you point out to them, I'm not going to be doing my best work if I'm going to be constantly answering the phone to people like you. Maybe not be quite as pointy as people like you, but
shitweasels like you.
But people will basically treat you how you allow them to treat them. You. Too many pronouns.
Many pronouns.
Many pronouns. So if you don't want to answer the phone in the evenings, then basically don't answer the phone in the evenings.
Yep.
If you don't want people to email you in the evening, don't answer emails in the evenings.
Well, people can email you in the evenings. You just don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah. And if people get shitty about it, then they're probably not your ideal customer.
Yeah, you can't do your best work if you're being constantly interrupted.
No.
And you just shouldn't. There's no way to spend your time just bouncing from one demand to the next.
No. And you'll also find that you'll give people more ability to fix things on their own as well. Because Kevin. Hi, Kevin. One of his rules is that he never answers emails straight away from his clients. It's always like the next day. Unless I presume their business is about to explode. But he doesn't answer people's quick questions immediately, because either it's not a quick question and it requires more thought, or it's something that they can sort out for themselves given that little bit of time. And, if you do...
Space to think.
Yeah, if you automatically jump on everybody's tiny little question, then you're not doing them any favours, really, because you're not allowing... You're teaching them to be dependent on you. And that's no good for anybody. Definitely not
Doesn't
you.
help.
Definitely not you. So basically, I want you to really think about... Joe and I both want you to... We want you to think about... Things and stuff.
How to position yourself. What rules you want for your life and your business.
And, what will you put up with? What's acceptable to you? What's acceptable behaviour from your clients? And what are you prepared to do for your clients? And how do you want your life and business to work? It's up to you to make the rules and enforce them. Because really, people are wandering around wanting to be told what to do.
And if you can place more ridiculous requirements on your clients than they can place on you, then you are technically winning.
Thanks, Joe. I'm really glad that's...
Sorry.
You're really pleased with yourself right now,
but
aren't you?
Yeah.
I haven't really got anything to add to that, to be honest. Kind of, you've just ruined everything.
Oh, it's blown it. Sorry.
Try not to be a douche canoe, but set your own rules, basically.
Yeah. That's a reasonable closing statement.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. So next week is the 100th podcast, Joe.
Really?
Yes.
Crikey. What we're going to do, they're going to be like party poppers and little hats.
They totally are now, yes. That's such a good idea. Okay, next week there's going to be party poppers and little hats, and we're going to come full circle and talk about something really important. What are we going to talk about, Joe?
Oh, what did we talk about in episode 1?
I have no idea.
Because we could just start again, keep going.
Oh, we could do a better version of episode 1.
Do you reckon?
Because I bet it was a bit shit.
We could do a worse version. What would happen then? That's just the start of a really big 2 years downward spiral.
Anyway, next week is the 100th episode of the Business for Superheroes show, which is quite a milestone. I think you'll agree.
There might be cake.
Oh my god, there's totally going to be cake. There's going to be cake, there's going to be party poppers, and there's going to be small party hats.
Excellent.
It's going to be good. And we'll have all of our guests that we've ever had on the show here. No, we're not going to do
Doing
that.
the Macarena.
No, can you imagine how much I would hate that? Filling the house with people.
That'd be alright.
It would be terrible. I'd hate it.
We could use them to block the holes in the house.
Yeah, we're only in here in front of the fire because it's actually really cold.
Big meaty draft excluders. All the previous guests.
Right, I think we're getting delirious from hunger now.
Hungry.
So, next week we'll be back for the 100th episode with big meaty draft excluders. And, yeah, I've started my book club.
Have you?
Yeah, well,
Have
this
you got,
time...
Have you got the webpage up?
I bloody well have.
Well done.
I'm actually not sure it works because I set it all up earlier and then I emailed James. Hi, James.
Hi, James.
And I said, will you please be my guinea pig? And he was like, well, I got to the thank you page and then I didn't get the confirmation email. So I'm just like, oh my God. Active campaign can kiss my shiny white arse. Product placement. So, join my book club. It may or may not work. You can go to...
Does it cost a lot?
It's free.
Well, in that case, it can be a bit shoddy.
No, the book club will be great, but the sign-up form might be a little bit iffy. VickyFraser.com/book club. We will basically read a book a month, and it will be my choice because this is not a democracy; it's a dictatorship. I will choose the first one. I am totally open to suggestions, by the way, because I want people to get through their own piles. But if it's a book I either don't want to read or just, I think is shit, then it won't be chosen, basically. But we'll read the book, and then we will have a call at the end of the month, and we will everybody on the call, if it's just me, that'll be very quick. Everybody on the call will say the top 3 things that they got from this book and how they're going to apply them to their business.
Okay. That sounds reasonable. Gets people through their big stack of books.
I know, right?
Because you've got a big stack of books.
It's taller than me and it's teetering alarmingly. It looms at me now in the daytime.
It's a big scary thing.
It is. So yeah, if you like this podcast, which frankly wasn't our best, you should go and subscribe in iTunes because it makes us feel good about ourselves. Or you can subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. If you don't want to subscribe, then that's fine. But if you could leave us a review instead, that would be really cool.
Good
especially
reviews.
if it's a good review. Or if that's not your bag either, that's absolutely cool too. If you know somebody else who will enjoy this nonsense, perhaps send them to a different episode than this one. Send them a link. www.vickyfraser.com/podcast. And we will be back for the 100th episode, same time next week.
Bring a hat.
Bye!
Bye.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.